Let a sister know when we are up. We're live. Hello, YouTube. Welcome back to the Lurie Daniel Favor Show Experience. This is going to be a quick one because we have an amazing guest who is joining us in just a little bit. Rick Martin from DigiDrop LA will be back with us, and we are continuing our Mogul Mondays series. Every other Monday, Rick is with us and basically is going to help us understand, because a whole lot of you are now being forced into entrepreneurship, right? Remember, a whole lot of people believe that being an entrepreneur is just something that some people do. I'm not built like that. I want a job. Well, historically, getting a job in this country is kind of a luxury, right? Oftentimes, if you were needing employment, you were going to have to work for it. And by work for it, I mean not for somebody else, but work on your own talent, monetize your talent, sell your talent, figure out how to break even with your talent, and basically use the gift, skills, and talents that you have been blessed with to sustain yourself. And unfortunately, because of the unemployment rate that Black Americans are experiencing right now, it's a whole lot more people who are currently employed, but definitely looking at side hustles, because y'all been paying attention to tax experts like Lou Hutt, who is on this show, on this channel every Saturday, realizing we're going to have to get some coins together. We're going to have to figure some things out. So those of you who are unemployed are realizing this, and those of you, many who are employed, realizing this as well. And so Rick will be joining us in just a bit. So this is going to feel a bit rushed. Don't worry. I go into all of this in way more detail in today's podcast episode. Lurie Breaks It Down is the name of the podcast. Just search for it on your favorite podcast platforms, and you will be able to hear the conversation today in way more detail because right now it's going to feel a little rushed. Also, there was something else I wanted to tell you. I can't remember it at the moment, but like and subscribe. Thank you. Please like and subscribe. I realize I forget to say that every single day when I'm talking to YouTube, but please do like, subscribe, and share the videos. Let's get into the conversation today because we got a lot to do. So about 1 in 100 children in the United States is born with a disease called congenital heart failure. And what typically happens is, because their bodies are so small as infants and toddlers, there's no device that they can use that basically replicates what their heart does for them that can fit inside their body, because they're precious little babies. They're like infants and toddlers. And fortunately, in America, despite the fact that there are so many children who deal with this, it's a pretty significant issue. The Food and Drug Administration has really identified this as an area where we definitely need innovation as it pertains to medical devices. And I talk a lot about the strength of innovation in the podcast. I'm looking at some of the things that China is doing. Child, they done got this whole glue that they figured out how to make by studying animals in the ocean that basically stick to things. They have studied that and now have a glue that can basically heal your human bones. They got in Japan this device now, or this procedure that will allow adults to regrow teeth. I don't know, but while that's all happening over there, here in this country, these following things are happening. There was a device that is about the size of a AA battery. It's called PediaFlow. And this is a device that scientists in this country, James Antaki, one of them, a biomedical engineer at Cornell, he had been working on this device for like 20 years. And it was in the final stages of research as of last spring. And it was basically able to engage in this research because of a grant that they had received from the Department of Defense. It was a $6 million multi-year grant. But unfortunately, for all of you out there who actually love little babies once they're born, not just the ones that are in the womb, the Trump administration and the Republicans have basically said, fuck them kids and their congenital heart failure. We don't give a fuck, because in April of this year, they canceled $10 billion in grants. And that basically meant that Cornell was also going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars of its grant to be able to continue this work. Dr. Antaki was like, we feel like collateral damage. I don't even see no connection between this and wokeness. We're just trying to do good in the world. The challenge is, sir, you are trying to do good in the world in a country that's run by eugenicists, people who believe only the strong survive, and they believe they are the strong and we ain't. And so if you are born with congenital heart failure and your little heart is not able to do what it needs to do, just because Dr. Antaki had a device that was going to be able to fit inside your heart that was the size of a AA battery, the Donald Trump administration said, fuck them kids and that device. You don't need it. You're obviously not strong enough to be here. And this is something that is sort of part of how Robert F. Kennedy sort of fuses his medical philosophy. And I say that with a grain of salt because that man ain't got no medical degrees. This is the same man who a dead worm, like a worm is now dead in his brain because the worm ate piece of his brain and then died in there. I'm just saying, when you put people like that in charge of your healthcare system, everything I'm about to share with you makes a whole lot of sense. Now, unfortunately, what this means is that device, which was literally about to be on the market, is no longer going to be available. And that's been tragic because if you are an infant or a toddler with congenital heart failure, you basically have to walk around with a pole attached to some bags, attached to some bodily fluids. You got to move with, like, you're basically walking with an IV pump. You're at 4, like at 3. But that's all right because the Donald Trump administration said, fuck you. And then they're moving on. They have moved on. And they're not moving on apparently to address measles because there are now hundreds of unvaccinated children navigating measles outbreaks. Now, this should not surprise anybody who's been paying attention to this. We have talked a lot about what's happening with measles on this show earlier this year until now, because why? Robert F. Kennedy Jr., what did he say? He said, you don't need no measles vaccine. And he's still trying to talk about how this weekend, this man said something to the effect of children who get circumcised early are the ones who's getting autism, and that's because they took Tylenol to recover from the pain. Like, if we had time, I would play this clip. We just don't have time right now. Actually, Amina says she can play the clip, so it's only 18 seconds. Amina, go ahead on and play the clip.
There's 2 studies that show children who are circumcised early have double the rate of autism. It's highly likely because they're given Tylenol. Oh, none of this is dispositive, but all of it is stuff that we should be paying attention to.
Oh, my Lord, I got to do my church mother rock. I just need a shawl around my shoulders as I hum a Negro spiritual. Because this man is cuckoo for fucking Cocoa Puffs. Tylenol did not become a thing until the 1950s. We have known about autism since the 1910s. The 1910s. This is the man who is in charge of our healthcare system. But basically, he's also the man that said, you don't need no measles vaccine. You don't need no vaccines, even though Donald Trump got his COVID vaccine booster shot over the weekend at his second annual checkup, which is weird because he just got an annual checkup like 5 months ago. So I don't know what's happening there, except for the fact that his brain is molting and so is his body. And now he is on airplanes talking to the reporters, talking about something. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get to heaven. Baby, you ain't got to wonder. Hell is waiting on you. They have a special place for you and everybody with you. So don't you worry about wondering about whether or not you're going to go into heaven. Don't you be bothering Jesus with all them questions. Jesus got people to take care of, not the demons like you are. But apparently, measles outbreaks in states like South Carolina, in states like Minnesota, are exploding because of unvaccinated children. Now, here's the thing about measles. It sucks to get the measles. Don't know, didn't have it. I had the chicken pox. That was bad enough. But measles not only is a disease that or an infection that requires you to stay home for a good 21 days where you have to be monitored because anything can happen. Measles also wipes out your immune system's memory. So you know how every time you get sick, your immune system is like, oh, we got this disease. Hold up. All right, bet. No problem. The next time we get this disease, we done studied it. We understand it. We're going to know how to keep ourselves safe. Measles wipes out your immune system's ability to do that. And so the challenge with people who get measles is, yeah, you got this 3 weeks where you actually down bad with the measles. But then the measles, while you are dealing with it, also eliminates your body's ability to protect you from future infections. And because you were down bad with the measles, that means you are much more prone to secondary infections. But don't you worry. Don't you worry. RFK Jr., who does not have any medical degrees or experience whatsoever, said just take us some vitamin A. Just take you some vitamin A. Now, that might also trigger you getting liver disease, because, you can't be using vitamin A as a preventative to get the measles when you could just use the measles vaccine. But that's all right. It ain't no problem. It ain't no problem because we ain't even going to have a Center for Disease Control after what happened this weekend. There was a Friday night massacre at the Center for Disease Control. There was a Friday night massacre where people began receiving reports. These are the doctors, the medical professionals. They began receiving a notice that basically, as we talked about last week, remember we said they're going to make these furloughs, these temporary furloughs while the government is shut down, permanent? Well, honey, they've already started making them permanent. The people at the CDC received a memo that said the following: I regret to inform you that you are being affected by a reduction in force action. That's a RIF. Please find attached a notice memorandum explaining the RIF and next steps. This RIF action does not reflect directly on your service, performance, or conduct. It's being taken solely for the reasons stated in the memorandum. After you receive this notice, you will be placed on administrative leave and will no longer have building access beginning Friday, October the 10th, unless directed otherwise by your leadership. Additionally, please save this email and its attachments or forward them to a personal email address for your records. Leadership at HHS appreciates your service. How's that for a big fuck you? That's basically what they said. And they're making these layoffs permanent. This means disease detectives, high-ranking scientists, the entire offices of the Washington building, the staff of the weekly public health journal, Morbidity and Mortality, all gone. Now, after this all happened, we began hearing that, oh shit, they fired too many people and they did it accidentally. So now they're rescinding that. But basically, they have destroyed the Center for Disease Control. They have destroyed this entire public health apparatus. And did I mention measles is growing? Did I mention that COVID numbers are growing? Even though y'all president did get his COVID vaccine. did get his COVID vaccine. But I want y'all to take a listen to this CNN clip. This is a reporter talking about the layoffs, which the Trump administration insists are targeting Democrats. The challenge is you cannot just target Democrats when it comes to a federal government layoff, because the federal government is populated by civil servants who are a part of every political party and no political parties. And basically, they lying out their ass. But take a listen to this clip and we'll unpack it on the other side.
The Trump administration says it has begun firing federal workers more than a week into the government shutdown. The president is vowing to target workers that he says are aligned with Democrats, who he blames for the closure. A court ruling revealed that more than 4,000 federal employees were given layoff notices on Friday. 7 departments were impacted, with most significant cutbacks hitting the Department of Health and Human Services and the Treasury Department. CNN's Kristen Holmes has more for us from the White House.
Well, we first became aware of these massive layoffs underway when Russell Vought, the head of the Office of Management and Budget, who has really been the architect behind the government cuts as well as this shutdown, posted that these RIFs, reduction in force, had begun. President Trump was later asked about the layoffs, and here's what he said.
How many layoffs have you authorized for this first round, and from which agencies?
And it'll be Democrat-oriented, because we figure, they started this thing, so they should be Democrat-oriented. It'll be a lot, and we'll announce the numbers over the next couple of days, but it'll be a lot of people, all because of the Democrats.
Now, according to
Amina,
let's
hold it there just for time's sake. Just for time's sake, the podcast has the entire clip in it, and you guys can take a listen to it there. But I want to move through this quickly because, again, we have Rick Martin on. I really want to get to Mogul Mondays and then get to your calls at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. But basically, as you saw, if those of you who are watching the Sunday shows this weekend, you might have also seen your Vice President J.D. Vance lying out his ass, his nose, his lips, his eye, every orifice on this man's body. He was spewing a lie through. And he was in one conversation with Kristen Welker, and she was asking him during the 2019 shutdown under the first Trump administration, which lasted 35 days, none of those workers were permanently laid off. In fact, if it feels weird to hear about government workers being permanently laid off during a shutdown, it's because that doesn't happen. The Republicans run the White House, they run the House, they run the Senate. They are choosing to fire people during the shutdown for the same reasons they had chosen to fire hundreds of thousands of people prior to the shutdown. They have said in Project 2025, this was the plan. This is what they don't like big government unless they are the big and the government, and they can be all up in your wahoo and your yahoo. And so we're in a situation right now where basically the Trump administration is now saying that they are going to make these cuts permanent, and they're also promising the impossible. Now, I know Rick is on his way, so I'm going to make this really, really quick. They are promising to basically reduce medicinals. This is their healthcare plan, because remember, they said they have concepts of a plan. They are promising to reduce medicinals to 650%. They're going to reduce them by 650%, which is crazy when you actually know math. Okay, now, Amina, I know we have this clip with Dr. Oz. I want y'all to listen to Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz is going to tell you something about the process they are about to employ when it comes to reducing the drug prices that we're all going to pay. This is their healthcare, their prescription drug plan. Take a listen to this clip, and then I'm going to give y'all a math lesson on the other side. Let's take a listen.
Drugs for lung diseases are discounted massively, and that's over here on this line. The president highlighted 650%. They're significant discounts, and these are medications. We just picked the ones for lung disease and one for metabolic syndrome, diabetes, but there are others that are included.
Listen, this man said we're going to reduce it 650%. He said we're going to reduce it. Now, I'm a lawyer today. I went to law school because I was not very good at math, right? I wanted to be a doctor, but I was not very good at math. And so I went to law school as like a backup. My husband hates it when I say that. He's like, you're so effective as a lawyer. I'm like, yeah, but I really wanted to be a doctor who was opening up a clinic that was going to do great work in the hood. So I just want to, because I didn't go to medical school because I'm not good at math. And when I look at these mediocre white men who are in charge of things, who are terrible at math, and then I realize I now, with my non-good at math self, I'm going to give you all a math lesson. Not one that I came up with on my own, but somebody, a user on the Twitters, basically went to ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT for an explanation. Those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can see this now. ChatGPT, if we take a 654% cost reduction, they said 650. I don't know why this man put 654, but we're going to go with the number. Dr. Oz says 654% cost reduction over medicinals, which means, as you can see here, a 654% 100% reduction means the original price is reduced by 6.54 times the original cost. So if the original cost is $1,000, then reducing the formula for reducing that original cost by 654% would be taking $1,000 times 6.54, which gives you $6,540. That means the new cost of your medicinal would be $1,000 minus the 654% discount, which is $1,000 minus $6,540, which gives you a total cost for your new medicinal of negative $5,540. This gives you a negative price, which, as you can see, it says here, doesn't make sense in real life, because that means the people making the medicine would then have to pay you $5,540 just to take the item. If somebody's telling you they're going to reduce something more than 100%, they're not good at math, and they assume you're not either. They are lying out their ass on shit that is easily verifiable if only we knew basic education. But we don't. And this is why we are going to now transition into another segment because that's all I got for you today. YouTube, I'm sorry. Again, the podcast today, Lurie breaks it down, talks way more about this. I have to get now into a spirit of something a little bit more vibrant, something a little bit more amazing. And that is going to be what we're going to do about it for us. Because we are in a situation right now where every single opportunity for success has basically been tied to whiteness that we no longer have access to. And so we're about to enter our Mogul Mondays conversation, because today I want to continue our discussion about how we do for ourselves. How do we get out of a position where we are constantly asking people who don't really like us to hire us to help us have an economically sustainable life? How do we do that for ourselves? And I'm glad that my friend Rick Martin, president of DigiDrop LA, is here to help us do just that. So YouTube, appreciate y'all, love you. Watch the YouTube channel. For those of you who do not have SiriusXM, you will get to see the